How near should my
I would say it's away. Yeah, it's my guess.
nearer?
Right, slate.
And we shall begin. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Marketplace podcast, where we share about everything, anything, but also something sometimes. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Lynette.
And today, we have yet another guest on our episode. I am very, very excited to welcome him. He is the CEO of Acceset, which is a digital platform to create a community to share their mental well-being of different individuals. So let's welcome Matt on the episode. Welcome.
Thank you. Very happy to be at the Marketplace podcast.
Yes, you nailed it right there. All right, so Matt, for all our listeners and viewers out there who, this is their first time meeting you, perhaps you want to share a little bit more about yourself and Acceset?
So Acceset is a platform for digital journaling. We wanted to make journaling accessible and kind of like make it an enjoyable experience. So we do that kind of work, and we try to build a community by connecting people who has similar interests expressed through their journaling.
Okay. Like, curious though, why journaling?
Well, journaling is kind of like one of the evidence-based tool that I saw kind of validated by research to help ease our well-being and kind of reduce anxiety and depression. And I was kind of motivated to bring in technology and kind of have something that can augment students and counseling resources to help with ongoing management of mental health issues.
So what made you decide to actually even go into the mental wellness space?
I was maybe influenced by my family experience. My mom has got schizophrenia, so there was a period where it was difficult for her to find jobs. I think there was stigma. There's a lot of shame actually with being associated with mental health issues. And I also had experience managing digital platforms. And I thought that at that point, 2015, there was quite a lot of barriers to care. Not so much the physical barriers, but emotional, psychological barriers. And I thought that there's a role that technology can play in mobilizing students and community to support each other. So that's really what motivated me. I thought there's a problem, and I thought that there's an opportunity for me to do something about it.
So how has it been so far, like in terms of like the community using the platform? How are they finding it?
Hey, it's interesting, because actually people are motivated to help others. So I do have very passionate and active volunteers who would fight to like take on cases. But I also think that there is still a challenge in disclosing and sharing your mental health challenges, and there is a lot of room to kind of like give everybody the chance to share their experience and also to help others. Yeah, so I think my users, they want to help others, but at the same time, I think there is a lot that could be done to incentivize people to open up and share their challenges.
Yeah, I think mental health is something that most people are still pretty scared to talk about, especially if it's like happens to you personally. How do your volunteers kind of like encourage people to open up? Like, is there any like tips for like when we talk to people, like how do we get them to share a bit more about themselves?
I think from the feedback that my users gave me, I think they are motivated when they read about other people's stories. So I from what I can see, there's a fear, right, in opening up, or like how would people judge me? And I think part of the fear is I haven't seen enough of similar stories. So for me to open up and say that, my mom has schizophrenia, it's actually very scary. But when I take that first step and I share about this, and I think another person who see my story and say, actually I also have a similar story, then it's easier for the second or third person to open up. So I think part of what the platform tried to do is to make everybody's content anonymous, but also increase the visibility so that it encourage sharing.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. So, if they kind of like want to contact one another, right? Like how, just want to understand a bit more about platform, like how do they go about that?
So we have kind of two modules. One is kind of supervised peer support. So that's one-to-one, but the responses is vetted by a third party, like a moderator, a counselor. Okay, somebody who is just making sure that the responses adds value. Have a different a separate module which is more social networking. So that functions like Tinder, in a sense.
Yeah.
It's matchmaking in a sense that everybody can see everyone's journal, and if you like my journal and I like your journal, we will match. But you wouldn't know that this content comes from me because it's anonymous. So with the direct chat, actually people can exchange contact if they wish to have further conversation.
It's kind of like on the platform you have an avatar of sorts.
Yes,
Yeah, like anonymous panda or something like that.
that's correct.
And then you get matched with an anonymous raccoon.
Yes.
Yeah, and then you all happen to empathize with one another, and then we decided maybe we should be friends.
Yes.
Then that's where they can take it.
So it's kind of like interest based. If we match because you spoke about maybe like sports and I spoke about sports, or you are going through a period of transition, you're trying to find your first job, or you're in between jobs and I also happen to have similar challenges, or it's kind of like a health concerns, and then we match on that basis, the friendship can just be interest based, context based. It doesn't have to go beyond certain boundaries that you are not comfortable with. So you kind of don't have to like have an obligation to maintain a friendship. You can just like chat and then you can drop off whenever you want.
Is there any like what's like the most interesting like use cases you have experienced with your users?
Well, they actually use the platform in a way that surprises me. So when I first set up the peer support platform, I was imagining like a one-way disclosure and then support given. I found out that over time, when the chemistry is formed between two strangers, they become more informal. They cross many topics. They speak for longer, and it became a kind of like, it signaled to me that actually peer support is just a style. It doesn't have to be formal all the time. And maybe the power of a network is really to connect people to new people. So that's something that's really surprising to me, and I took cue from there and redesigned my system to make it like social media, Tinder-ish style. Yeah.
Is there a way where like the profile they can showcase some stuff in their profile? Is there a profile for them? Like, I like to draw, then they can showcase their artwork or something like that.
So I have one which is an audio function. You can record certain content, you can post a picture. So that enables some form of profiling of your own created content. For text, we control it a bit, because kind of if you let loose too much, then you have to balance between like giving user freedom and making sure they don't abuse it and create harmful content. So I'm trying to strike a balance there. Yeah. But the idea is for people's content to represent them, and they're like anonymous. So it's a bit like The Voice.
Okay.
The concept, right? It's like it's blind, but if you like the content that you're hearing, that you
press the buzzer.
I want you, yeah, something like that.
Okay. Oh, it's a very interesting concept. Okay.
Yeah, but this time it's a two-way street.
Both sides can press the buzzer.
Both sides have to press the buzzer in order for the connection to be formed. Yeah.
Since they can be connected through like interest and everything, right? But also going back to like how there are certain, more deeper, like some serious like mental wellness issue. Like, so for example, like depression, if they talk about this kind of topics, like when is the point where like a counselor would decide to step in?
When there is signs of imminent danger. For example, if somebody is saying that they have attempted suicide and they haven't died yet. Yeah, I think that's where, if I'm on the receiving end, I would panic. I'd be like, oh, now like I'm responsible for this life. I don't feel confident. I better escalate to a professional who is actually trained to know how to manage this. And I think it's also something that everyone in the community makes a judgment for. Like, for example, if something that I feel is a little bit grey, so I feel like dying. So when I express a sentiment, do I escalate or do I support? So some may actually ask, okay, so how long? Some of them, they go through training, they understand the process of building a safety plan, they may actually probe further. But I think we depend a lot on the community to support one another.
So how do you manage like a informed community? Because like you mentioned, it really sometimes takes like your own judgment in order to know whether to escalate this matter or not. And like personally, if I don't have like that professional knowledge on like when it becomes like dangerous, then I wouldn't know. So then how do you make sure that everyone is informed of all this?
When they sign up as a volunteer, they go through training, and I think what we have done in the past is we work through organizations, work through community partners, like charities, schools. If they decide to take it up, then they will have the resources to kind of like manage the students. But you are right, it's challenging. And also I think people will reverse engineer, and if they know that they would be escalated to a counselor, some of them may actually choose to not disclose, which kind of then makes it not a very safe space. So I feel like that is also where it's a bit tricky. And what I think journaling is trying to do is to give you an outlet to regulate some of the emotions and complement other solutions like counseling and all these things. But I don't think it can replace.
Just curious, like have you thought of like organizing physical sessions? Like, because I see like there's those groups, right, where they sit together and then they talk about their issues instead of like it being like a virtual platform currently.
But wouldn't there be the issue of anonymity?
I mean, if they, is there a future plans on this kind of stuff?
No, so I think there are organizations that does like group sessions and all these things. I think where we specialize in is the individual one-to-one connection. So it's really up to the user. If I can help you through your content, get connected to a few other different users and networks, and if you feel comfortable enough and the other party feel comfortable enough to take it offline, then good for you guys. But so long as you have formed new connection, you've seen new content, I think as a platform I've done my job to kind of like bring something new into your life. And also give you the confidence to open up and share, where maybe without this scaffolding and journaling process, you might just not disclose anything.
Yeah, I think a platform is really great. Like in terms of like writing journals, right? It's very like introspective, reflective. So it really allows like people to like dig deep into their thoughts and everything. So I think just now you also mentioned like partnerships, right? So what are some of the interesting partnerships you have done with like other institutions?
So generally with the schools that I worked with in the past, they provide counselors, they provide students, and then we just provide technology. Yeah, I feel like we are like we depend on an existing ecosystem, and we try to digitize them so that we can provide some form of ongoing support and data insights. Like, okay, there are certain trends. There are certain things that we are seeing in aggregated data, and also in some situations, the user themselves respond positively. They feel empowered to help others. Yeah, so that has been how we operate. Yeah, so we provide technology, then the partners, the school's organization provide the resources.
Oh, okay. What kind of data do you collect?
So we have, so when you journal, we have like 220 topics.
Wow, there's a lot of topics.
There's a lot of topics, right? So helping to like helping the clients to know, okay, what topics are kind of like trending.
Oh, wow. 200, is it like categories?
Categories. So from A to Z, I think I got 22 categories, 10 topics each.
So what are the most trending ones? I'm also curious.
Wow.
Genuinely curious.
Actually, there's quite a bit on relationships.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
And also, I think people talk about their future worries. Like, okay, now I finished school, right?
Okay.
Yeah, what am I going to do? Where do I land?
Oh, what if I choose this and it's wrong? Things like that.
Yeah. So it's a space to really like vent all these fears and anxieties.
Can people read all this?
Depending on the module you choose. So if you choose a supervised peer support module, then can't read, right? It goes to the back channel to the volunteers. But if you kind of choose a friendship letter module where there's a social networking component, then whatever you put out, it's a public letter.
It's like a Reddit.
Like a
blog
Reddit.
kind of thing.
Yes. But different from Reddit is you cannot comment on it. You can only swipe left or swipe right.
Means like it's like the match thing.
It's like a match thing. So I can read and match. But if I don't produce any content, I won't have a friend. If I produce content and I match to somebody else's, and they also find my content valuable, then okay, match can happen. Yeah.
Oh. So is right is valuable content.
Like right is a tick.
Oh,
Left
okay.
is a cross.
Okay. Wow, it's really like okay, maybe not Tinder lah. Tinder is very less serious. Maybe more of like, I don't know, Bumble or like those very wholesome kind of places.
Correct. And I had to explain it to my developers.
Oh.
'Cause they don't use these apps in their town, so we watch a YouTube together. And, this is swipe right. Swipe right means this. Swipe left means this. Yeah. But we're trying to gamify this thing. So,
Wow, interesting.
if you draw it back to the mental health, like if I tell you this is a peer support module, then people go in with a set expectation. Oh, I better like be prim and proper.
They put a forefront.
Language, and then I better like tell you the story that I've told other people. Like I follow a script, so everything is very formal.
Yeah.
But I found that the best support belongs to those where both parties are very much informal, and when they're very informal, you can see in their content that they cover many different topics, and their topic like jump around.
Is it because they are more open to one another?
Yeah, I mean there's a novelty factor also in like, oh, this is a network that I wouldn't have come across if not for this program. So when I redesign it to make it like social media, my end goal is still peer support. I still hope for new connections to be formed, but I don't want people to go in thinking like, oh, we are talking only because either you need help or I need help.
I see. Yeah.
So it's kind of like just creating the good vibes, and people just kind of gamify this process and they just have fun creating content and viewing other people's content. And then if they get like connected, it's a bonus. They expand their social network and social support without feeling like they're in a formal therapy or para-counseling session. Yeah, that's the goal.
Okay, I see. So what is like a future direction for this platform?
Oh, I'm looking at use cases in different communities. I think the challenge for social enterprise is you want to solve a social problem that also has commercial potential. So I think what I have done in the past is in the education sector. It's not where I think the business can grow. So I'm actually putting this platform on hold. So it's kind of like a pro bono, and it gives me the time to like really understand whether like journaling can become something that we can add into one of the community's routine, and to give them that self-care and social support to help them in their work as well. So I'm still trying to find use cases.
I see.
Yeah. I think there's potential in the future for it to look at the elderly space, where you will have a growth in seniors.
Yeah, because of the aging population.
And you have a shrinking youth population.
Yes.
What then it suggests is the same way of engaging the seniors, like it means building programs and all these things, that needs to change because you won't have enough people to run it. Then I think also maybe from the senior standpoint, they will need healthcare resources. So healthcare could be also another area to look at. Yeah.
Not just mental health care, like physical.
Yeah. So like the people who take care of people.
Yeah. The healthcare,
Yeah.
the caretakers.
caregivers, yeah.
The caretakers, like that's the informal one, right? But even the formal one, like your doctors in your GPs, your nurses in your hospitals, I think they also could benefit from regular self-care and social support.
Definitely. I have a lot of friends in the nursing line. Like currently they just started out, right? And every time they will share how it's very stressful for them because the sheer number of patients they have to really meet every day and handle is really another level. And they always have to put up a front to be strong in front of the patients, because sometimes the patients may not be of the best condition in terms of their health, but they cannot show it. So I have a friend who she's very emotionally compromised because she has one patient who was going through a very tough time. Yeah, and she really, every time she sees him, she will need to take a breather. She'll need to get out the ward, breathe a bit, come back in. Yeah, and but it's something that she's finding hard to cope with.
Yes, and not to say that journaling is a silver bullet solution, it isn't. But suppose that kind of situation leads to unprocessed anxiety, and then you just keep like replaying it at night, and then it affects my sleep.
Yes.
Then this whole mental health thing will compound, you affect your physical health. Then you wake up the next day for work, you are like not really well rested, even though you have a supposed work rest schedule, right? But your rest is compromised because of your work. Then I think journaling can play a part to de-escalate some of this anxiety, and you express it in words. It's where like I think the clinical validation helps. Okay, like it addressed some of the issues, and I'm hoping that people who are kind of like already health conscious, they pay attention to their diet. They have certain practices. They have certain approaches when it comes to sleep management and diet. They can also share this information, and you build a community from there. So without these things in place, I think then the caregivers, the seniors, the nurses, they only depend on themselves.
Yeah, which is quite scary because they don't know where to go or what to do sometimes.
So the idea is to give them like tools that doesn't disrupt their schedule. Because I don't think they would, given how much work they have, I don't think they will want to like, they'll be very excited to be sent on a 1 week course. Then imagine you have a lot of workload because there's not enough nurses already. Then you get sent on 1 week. Then all the people who don't get sent, right, who then get picked, wouldn't their workload be higher?
Yeah, because they have to now fill in the work that this absent person is doing.
Correct.
Extra workload.
But if you don't do anything, then you just let the problem run. So I feel like it's very difficult, like to help them in a way that doesn't make their situation worse. Yeah. And also the limitation of how many more people I can hire, how much more I can raise your wages and stuff. So I feel like what I try to do is to slowly understand the use case, run it as a community project, and kind of like work elsewhere and like build experience. It's a long, I think it's a long run, long game kind of thing. You can't rush it, but I think what hasn't changed is like 10 years ago when I look at the space, I think mental health is a concern. I think that is still, to me, is still a valid problem today. Yeah.
Well, like, because you mentioned how you have been, working with like schools and collecting data and things like that, right? Is to really understand like the different, maybe like what you say, trending topics and things like that. But then, like, maybe could you share with us like what is it like to be like a researcher in the mental health space? Like, how has it been like for you?
Oh, actually, it's very eye-opening. So when I first built my journaling tool, I depended a lot on past feedback and intuition. Okay, like this could be better this way. We could reduce the steps involved. We could we can put a face to a name, right? So if I know that I'm going through a certain experience, if I have some visuals to refer to, it could help me to better identify and help me to better express what I'm going through. So that's what intuition-based innovation looks like without much research. But I think what research gives you is the meat in the substance in this process. Like, okay, now you don't have to guess already. There's this theory, and there's this like statistic, there's this content, like you can go after like autonomy as an unmet need or competence, and then like you don't even need to like invent like what to say, like the statement or the question to ask. It's all in the skills, right? People have done the research. You just copy and paste, and you give it a form that is friendly to laymen. Like people look at it, they don't feel like it's a research paper, but they just feel that it's part of the journaling experience. So I think that's something that's wonderful. And I also see that, like for digital health companies in the US, they are rite of passage. They will find like a Stanford to do some tests and they'll come out and say, okay, we are like clinically proven. And I was like, how do I get that in Singapore? Where is
The data, is it?
Where is the Stanford in Singapore, right? Like,
So where do you get it from? Or you still...
I think NUS.
end up I went with NUS. It happened at the Tesla event.
Oh, okay.
So I spoke to someone at the event. I happened to talk about digital mental health, and he was like, hey, so what do you do, right? Like, what do you need? And I told him this story about how America has Stanford and looking for Stanford. And I was like, okay, I was from America. I got headhunted to Singapore. I'm leading a research center in NUS.
For mental health?
I think they do tech research.
Oh, wow.
But they specialize in bringing tech research from 0 to 1, like kind of bring it to the marketplace, right? So, and the idea is to give clinical evidence to it. So he said, okay, let's do it.
Wow, that sheer fate, man.
Yeah, so I was quite lucky. Eye-opening. After the product is clinically proven, actually, I think people approach technology with more confidence. Okay, they know that like this thing it reduces the risk for more parties to be associated, to experiment, to do something with this technology because it's already proven in a certain setting. As compared to, we don't know for sure whether in a clinical setting this would actually work or it cause more harm. Yeah, so that the uncertainty is removed when you go through a rigorous research process.
How long was the research process, if you don't mind sharing?
Wow, I don't know whether it's going to be the same because I do this research during COVID. So there's a delay because if you try to get approval from for research. And at that period, anybody that has COVID-19 in their research title, right, they'll get bumped up first because this is a national priority, right? So, notwithstanding that, I think I went through like 13 rounds of like Q&A. So they're very rigorous, right? Anything that can go wrong, they will ask you. And like the question can be, it started from like 4 pages long, then slowly 2 page, 1 page. They exhaust all the questions that they could ask before they are satisfied that it meets their rigor of safety, and all things considered, okay, it's safe for it to go on trial for real humans to use this. And you can imagine, because peer support, right, like you have a human who is untrained talking to a human who has some peer support training, but they are not like doctors. Anything and everything can go wrong. So actually a lot of studies is human to computer. Yeah, I just like look at the screen, I watch some video, I do some survey. Less interactive. There's no human component, but also that means less things can go wrong.
Because the computer can sort of moderate.
Computer can't really make mistakes.
Yeah.
So therefore it's easier to get approval. Yeah, I think for ours it took about 2 years. 2 years to approve.
Would you say that like that 2 years, I mean it is definitely worth it because you see where Acceset has gone. Yeah.
Something that's interesting is, because it's intervention study, we managed to secure a journal that's of quite a good impact factor, about 5.2, which you typically won't get if your study is just about surveying of problems, for example, or attitude. Then you might get like 1 to 3. Yeah. So for this, even though the sample size is very small, but the intervention actually works, it proves itself, then I think like journal of a higher impact factor were okay to be associated to put our study in their publication. Yeah. So I think that fills a gap in local mental health research.
Well, then I'm very curious because you were saying hopefully you are able to also reach out to the older generation or like the caretakers and like the healthcare professionals in the future, right? When it comes to managing their mental health. Would you say that round of research will be even more challenging?
Yes, because it's a different audience. So you may also get people who don't believe that just by writing things down it will change things. Maybe they're unhappy about their work conditions and work-life balance. Yeah, journaling is not gonna like make things different in the monetary sense. So I believe there'll be challenges, but at the same time I think there'll be opportunity because every market, every community will have innovators who are open to new ideas, who are motivated to find a solution. Like I know that my mental health is not very good, and I know that this cannot be a long-term thing, right? I will just burn out. And I am motivated for myself, for my patients, for my family to find a solution to this. So I think there will be opportunity, and potentially it could be a good thing in the future, like where the role of technology becomes more and more important. I mean, like to just give a example, like Apple recently, iOS OS 17, they incorporated journaling into their OS. Yeah. So you can actually use like Apple to like scan your face. So it's like a mirror, right? You can scan and like capture your mood through like a face scan. And then you can like journal your thought. Okay, today I'm feeling this. But I don't know how accurate is the face scan, right? Because they do ask you like, okay, like how's your depression, right? So they put you through the PHQ-9 and they like answer, and then you kind of jot down some information and they just plot into a chart.
Wow.
But the fact that even Apple is going to it, they must have seen that in the future, given the constraints, there'll be a growing. They must have they must have bet that in the future this will become more and more important.
The concept of journaling and how important it is.
The demand for alternative solutions to population mental health. Yeah. So I thought that was something that, if I read it correctly, actually it does mean that, okay, the work that my team and I have built today has its place, but maybe not the right time yet. Maybe in the future it will become
Speaking
more
of
important.
what was the term you population mental health. Yeah, like we're gonna talk about like the mental health situation in Singapore. Like I know it's like people are being more open about it, but right now before we go into that, right, like previously we were both sharing how and we both agree that we should do a check-in.
Yes.
Yeah, like okay, so I don't know how should we do this? Like, do I just ask how's your day and things like that? This is like something that I always don't know how to kickstart, you know? Like, cause I mean I'm at the point in my life where I have many friends who have gone through their fair share of like mental health issues. Yes. And most of the time I start off by asking how are they doing. Yes. So I think we can maybe start off with that. Maybe we can just start with you, Matt. So how are you doing today?
So full disclosure, I'm in a job transition. I think any transition will have some form of disruption of routine and also like a semblance of uncertainty. So I think I have good and bad days. In bad days, I think it affects my sleep. Then in good days, then I do feel okay. So I would say that my mental health is static. It kind of like goes up and down.
Turbulent.
Yeah, it's turbulent up and down.
I see. But like, are you coping well with that or?
I'm okay. Like there, I look at like, for example, I pay a lot of attention to my sleep because I feel like if you can nail this sleep part, right, it gives you a basis to recover the next day. Like, it might not be a full recovery, but certainly a good night's sleep will help a lot. Yeah, so like, okay, I'm very anxious. Yeah, then the outcome of that is I cannot sleep because then a lot is on my mind. Then maybe let's work on reducing the anxiety before bedtime. If I have a lot of stress, I eat a lot, somehow my body responds, generates a lot of heat. Again, I feel very hot at night, I cannot sleep, then the problem will compound. So I always look at my sleep to tell me like how well I'm doing and how I can like adjust so that I can be better the next day.
Oh wow, that's great. At least like it's like a check-in for yourself, like based on like how well you sleep the day before, and then when you wake up, let's say you wake up fresh, you're like, okay, good, I'm doing great mentally, that kind of thing.
And I experience a lot of emotions also. So sometimes I feel things are unfair for me. I feel angry and all. Then I will actually journal and kind of like have a space to dump all this emotion and like some thoughts. And then like in my own journaling too, I have a self-censorship function. So certain things are just like self-censor. So I can read it, but even though it's a public letter, others will read it. There are some parts that I choose to censor off. They can't read.
Wait, it's on Acceset also, is it? Yeah, oh, cool.
So like, because at that time when we developed this tool, we were thinking that there could be certain things that you just want to release from your system, but actually it's not safe for viewing. And just like
self-censor lah. Code name.
yeah, like you want to scold somebody, yeah.
Star.
Gets blanked. I mean, there's a small risk that maybe like the code could fail. So we do a lot of testing to just make sure that like if we put a self-censor feature, it better work.
So there's actually a self-censor feature on Acceset as well. How is it like? So you can put so it's a word or is it emoji?
It could be a word, a phrase, but it's like how you put a inverted comma on the front, like they call it a delimiter. Like you kind of put like a symbol in front and behind, then whatever is contained in between will blank it out for you.
Oh, how is it represented like on text, like for others to see?
It's like a mosaic,
Ah.
like a white mosaic. So a white mosaic means you are reading a self-censored text. And then if you kind of like scroll over, then it will say censored. So you wouldn't even know whether a word was censored, a phrase, a sentence, or a paragraph.
Oh wow. Oh, so it's forever that length, but you never know what is in that length.
Because we have text to speech. So if we press text to speech, then it should like censored.
Wow. Wow, I like that. I think it's very important sometimes because after all it's your train of thought, it's your how you're feeling, but sometimes you feel like, it might not be ready to share, or others might not want to see it, or things like that. That's why self-censoring.
So striking a balance, I think like having your stories out there in a safe form, it could contribute to your own healing. Like at least you feel courageous enough to like release this burden from your system. You externalize it. But you also don't want to be like doxing people and all this thing. You want to like stay in line with the law. Then okay, personal information or things that could land you in trouble with the law, you self-censor it. And then people read it, they can follow the story without knowing the sensitive details. Yeah, because I think when people relate to each other, they relate, I have a similar experience, or I can kind of relate to this thing, right, that you're talking about without knowing who. Yeah.
Wow, I like that. Okay, thanks for sharing though. Really, really, like it's really heartwarming to now that we're doing this, right? I feel like I should do a check-in on myself every day. Yes. I don't do that, I just go about my day. Yeah, but I think before going to me, I think Lynette, how about you? How are you doing today?
I'm good, I guess. That's always my default answer. I think for me, the sleep thing, I really totally agree. Like no matter what, right, I always make sure I have like 7.5 hours of sleep every night. But sometimes the sleep can be quite bad lah, because if I'm stressed in the day, then in some sense I dream about my work as well. So it's like sometimes it's like trying to finish my work while I'm sleeping.
So you like in your dream you complete your work, but then you got up and you're like, I'm actually awake now.
Yeah, something like that. Then when I get out, I feel like I didn't sleep at all. So it's quite counterproductive in some sense. Yeah. So I think the sleep thing is like super important, and I think I am maybe permanently in like a stress state, but because I'm permanently feeling this, it's like by default. So when people ask me whether I'm stressed, I would say like I'm not, because that's just how I always feel. Yeah, but I think it's not super healthy, I guess. Yeah, so I think it's like learning to like manage my time and to find things that really help me to relax and be intentional with my rest as well. Yeah, so I'm still trying on that. What about you? How's your mental health?
Well, it's pretty okay, pretty good. I don't have any indication though. Like both of y'all have sleep as an indication, right? But I don't know. I'm like thinking right now, like literally my brain is working to think of one. But at the top of my head is maybe not sleep but appetite. Yeah, like people stress eat, but I find that when I'm very stressful, I don't eat. So it's really the opposite. Yeah, so I think that's a really big indicator. When I'm very nervous, when I'm very angry, when I'm sad, when I'm stressed, I just genuinely have a very low appetite. Yeah, but what I will do then is, I guess usually I'll just tackle the root. Why am I stressed? Why am I sad? Why am I angry? Yeah, but I don't, if there's no solution for that, right, I actually would then, it's not exactly journaling, but I would write it down, like pen and paper. Yeah, I do like typing a lot, but I feel that when it comes to something that is a little bit more personal, I like to write it down pen and paper. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't have to be text. I just draw whatever I'm feeling, then I'll try to let it out. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's how I do it. I'm doing fine now. I'm eating well. Just that, like, if I realized, like, y'all use sleep as an indicator, and that's where I realized, oh shit, I actually did not pay attention to what indicator I have. And I think that's quite dangerous. Yeah, if let's say you are not aware, And like, there are so many telltale signs, and then only when, like, maybe if I'm so stressed until I lost so much weight, and that's where people start to realize, I think that might be a little bit too late for me. Yeah, so that's where I think, I should be a bit more mindful nowadays.
So when you put pen on paper, I think this process is emotional self-disclosure. And the idea is kind of like you put the emotions out there, your thoughts, then it's a process where you can kind of like step outside, and it allows you to cognitively reprocess this emotional experience, and it creates some form of distance to help you cope. And I also think that something like journaling could help with energy management. Like I feel really down, like maybe a particular, it doesn't even have to be the end of the day. End of the day is important because it's like if you don't manage that part well, then your sleep is compromised, and then you know that the next day will be even harder. But like in the middle of the day, if like there's a particular period where I feel like my energy is just very low, it could be because I eat too much, or it could be like I get a very disappointing news or sorts, something just not going well. Then I will actually like try to take a step back and try to express it. If I tackle the right root cause or identify the right emotion or what, it should make me feel slightly better. But I find that some emotions are harder to unpack. For example, when you feel angry, you don't exactly know what is the real emotion. It's just like a shock and you cannot take it and you feel very unsettled. Yeah. But I feel like, okay, if I dwell on it or I don't express it, it affects me more than if I were to approach it and kind of like attempt to engage with the emotion and try to unpack it. Then at least I can recover faster. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, man. It's really, it's really, not no pun intended lah, mind blown. Like really, like it's not something that I personally converse about a lot when it comes to talking about the mental health space. Like I feel that we all subconsciously know and are aware about it, but we just it's not something that we know when is the right time to say. There's like what you say. There's no right answer. There's no rule book. So I feel like it's always great to have a safe space to talk about it, to share your thoughts, but at the same time also have enough control to censor what you want to share as well. So I think it's great. So before we conclude, is there anything that you would like to share with our listeners and viewers out there when it comes to perhaps like, how like any tips that you feel would be great for them when it comes to sharing about their mental health issues or talking about it and things like that?
I think that something like mental health, different people will respond to different types of methods. And whether your method is helpful or harmful for your health, I think it's important to acknowledge that the relationship, okay, I'm doing this because otherwise my health may get worse. I think that's important. But also, beyond that, something that I think is useful for listeners to take away is that like you take out all the technical jargons, right? I think that mental health is really a balance of experiences. So it's like if I find that I have more negative experience than positive ones, maybe something that could be helpful as a starting point is to look at, okay, can I like add more positive experiences or add positive things that I can look forward to help me move into a better state of health. Yeah, so that will be, what that exactly is will be different for different people. Yeah, but I think that having that balance in mind, it's a plus minus kind of thing. would be helpful as a starting point.
Oh, wow. Oh, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on our podcast. I think sharing about mental health, it's really not easy. And like to do a platform like this for mental health, I think it's really like great work for people to have like a place where they can come together to have like meaningful, deep conversations and really get to know the other person. Yeah, getting them to open up is really challenging. Yeah, so thanks a lot for having this platform as well for everyone to be on it. Yeah. So
Yeah, so with that, we have come to the end of our 4th episode of the Marketplace podcast. Once again, thank you, Matt, for being our guest on this episode. We really appreciate your time. It's once again, I'm going to use this pun. It is very mind-blowing. So do check out Acceset, everyone. I feel that it's very meaningful and it's also very beneficial for everyone to be, to have a safe space to find courage in sharing about how you're feeling. And also, even if you don't want to, you can always do a simple check-in like how we did, just check in with yourself. A simple question, how are you feeling today? I think that is also very important. And with that, we have come to the end of our episode. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and also do check out Acceset. And we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.